Hello everyone, welcome to the Sweet Source Canada YouTube channel. My name is Tristan, and today on this cold and wet morning we're going to be doing a heater core replacement on this 1998 Volvo V70 T5. And there are a few symptoms we're going to cover right after this intro. Okay, so main symptoms of a bad heater core in these cars is you'll kind of smell a sweet-ish scent coming out of the vents. You might feel also some sticky residue on the vents when it gets really bad, and on the windshield as well. And you'll also notice probably a slow loss of coolant at the very beginning, as the heater core lies right behind the center console here, behind the two carpeted portions in the driver and passenger footwell. And you'll start to notice some coolant being lost, and you can actually lose a decent amount of coolant through here over time. It'll just start to leak out slowly but surely, and you won't really notice until it gets really bad, and then you see your engine temperature go up real high. That's when you know that maybe a heater hose or a heater core has failed and has leaked out all your coolant in a matter of minutes. On these cars, the heater core has coolant flowing through it constantly. So that just means that it's just accelerating the potential wear of this item. So it's something that's a good idea to do preventatively, but also if it's been changed recently, no need to pull it out for that. But this job is not complicated, and I'll walk you guys through it all. Now this process is pretty much the same for all P80 Volvos. Those are the inlet hoses that go into the heater core through the firewall, and those will be different on the inside. Some of them use aluminum. There's more the later 850s and P80 S70, V70s, etc. will use like these aluminum ones. Other cars will use you know, these steel pipes that are more likely to corrode. You can upgrade them to the aluminum pipes that are less likely to corrode, but pretty much if you got a V70 S70 or late I believe 96, 97, 850s do have these aluminum pipes at factory, which are a lot less likely to corrode. You can upgrade if you have an older 850 that has the old style steel ones. You can upgrade it too. So yeah, so at this point now we're gonna go ahead and start this repair. Now one thing I want to say is, see this car here, coolant level is actually all right. It's just above minimum. It's not the most ideal positioning amount you want in this car. You'd like it to be maybe in the middle when cold, between the min and max, but you don't need to drain all of your coolant when you do this job. If the coolant is fresh, like in my car, the coolant is quite fresh, not even a year old, you don't need to drain all the coolant. So what I would recommend is, if your coolant is old, yes, go ahead and drain it through the lower rad hose or the petcock on the radiator. But if not, just go ahead and crimp those two heater hoses there, and that will allow you to save most of your coolant, and you'll also have to top up at the end. I don't want to waste good coolant, so that's what I'm going to do personally. Okay, so as you can see, I've gotten one clamp on there to crimp the hose. I don't like to put it too close to the actual hose crimp itself, which is right here. I don't like to put it too close to that in case it breaks or something. I just want to be safe. So you're not going to lose a whole lot of coolant this way. So I've got one already crimped. I'm going to crimp the second one. As you can see, this T5 model does have the turbo quite close to all this. So you want to make sure that you angle it properly, and you go ahead and install them correctly. And these install really simply. I mean, it's just a matter of opening them up, and once you lock on, you just put this tab over, and it'll kind of grab the teeth and hold this clamp in place to crimp. So let's go ahead and install the other one. Both heater hoses are successfully crimped. We're not going to lose too much coolant this way, and it also minimized the mess in the cabin of the car, which of course there's other methods to doing this, which will help minimize the mess even if you don't do this part. There are ways to minimize this mess, but it's a good practice to either drain your coolant, half at least, or go ahead and crimp these hoses, because that's the only access to coolant to the heater core. Good thing I have my work jacket here. That's what these jackets are good for. Got to keep the Volvo and Saab jackets clean. Another rule of thumb, guys, is make sure your cooling system is cool to the touch or slightly warm. You don't want to be burning yourself with hot coolant. That's never a fun thing. So yeah, it makes everything just a lot easier. So either the car sits overnight or you haven't driven it in a couple hours, so everything is allowed to cool. Also, another good thing to do, guys, since you're gonna have these doors open, is to go ahead and switch off your door lights. So when the doors are open, of course, have it like this. Lights stay on when doors are open, but just go ahead and turn those off so you don't drain your battery. Next step is to remove this lower kick panel. It's very easily done. It looks like I'm missing a screw right here, and someone jerry-rigged a little screw here. All right, so someone put a Phillips here, which is obviously not the right screw. I'm gonna go ahead and remove that. Maybe replace it for a Torx or something, or see if there's another way I can hold this panel up. So we're gonna move one screw that's here. Your car should not have this. Let's just put it that way. Mine has been through the ringer a little bit with 500 and almost 14,000 kilometers on it. So there we go. There's literally one screw on my car holding it in, but normally you'd have a screw up here, and I believe you have a couple in back. No, just one over here that holds your whole panel, and the rest slides into the dash through these little holes over here. So once that's out, just go ahead and plug your light connector. There we go. And this can be removed and can go in the back seat for the moment. So once that panel is removed, go ahead and peel back this carpet. There should be no resistance whatsoever. And go ahead and shove it as much as you can underneath the pedals. That'll give you access to the heater core. And then you just got this plastic panel that's not held in anything, and you just pop that out like so, and this can go in the back seat as well. Last thing we're gonna do here is just remove the floor mat, and it's just to prevent something else of getting messed up, just in case if anything happens with the coolant. This will help prevent any coolant from getting on your nice floor mat, especially these are nice Burberry floor mats from an XC. And there's actually a decent amount of room to access all that stuff. So we're gonna do the same thing on the passenger side. It's a little bit of a different process, but we'll get to it. On the passenger side, we're gonna remove this glove box. It's gonna be our first step. So you've got 6 screws that hold it in, up here as well. And we're gonna head and remove those. These are T25s. Once you remove the glove box, there's 2 hidden screws right here underneath to remove the kick panel right here. There we go. And that comes out. So next step is to remove this knee bolster here that protects the airbag. So don't worry about taking this thing out. Nothing's gonna happen with your airbags. It's just a protective metal cover. So there's 3 nuts. There's one over here, and then one over here. So we're gonna go ahead and remove those. Once those nuts are removed, you can go ahead and try to take this out. It could be a little bit tricky to take out, but once you get it, you get it. Okay, so I've gotten it out by pulling downwards. It just gets caught on the studs. So then this, go place in the back as well. So now once it's all done, you have full access to your heater box right there, and that's where our heater core lies. So let's start taking that apart. All right, so now it's time to remove the heater box itself to start pivoting this so we can access our heater core. So on the passenger side now, there is a T15 up here. After taking out that T15, there's a T20 all the way up here you can access right here. It's very hard to tell on camera, but we'll go ahead and remove that next. Now on to the driver's side. As you can see, we've got the same setup, so let's go ahead and remove those 2. Next thing we want to remove is this evaporator drain over here, so just pull it up. Should come out relatively easy like that. Put it to the side. Now, after that drain has been removed, I'm on the driver's side now. We're gonna go ahead and disconnect the coolant pipe coupling there, and that's just a T25 that's in between those 2 inlet and outlets out of the heater core. So let's go ahead and do that. I've got myself a long T25 on my ratchet, and that's gonna help us get in there and remove it. And of course, as you can see, I got all my towels set out, and I got garbage bags and whatever in case anything I need to mop up anything. I've got additional rags as well to catch any extra coolant. And that's out. Now at this point, it's gonna be time to rotate this. Now I'm gonna grab my towel, and I'm gonna hope and pray that I don't make a huge mess in here. Let's grab the towel out over the shifter cables and all that. Hopefully that's gonna be okay, and let's try to rotate this out. I hear coolant. All right, so I've gotten it out. It just kind of slides outwards like this, And I'm gonna go on the passenger side and remove it completely. All right, so I've got the heater core box out. So this one looks like it was manufactured in 2016, and I'm already smelling that sweet smell. So I'm not gonna take any chances with this. If these fail, they will spill all your coolant out, and you could even blow your engine if you're not paying attention and overheat it. So make sure you change it, you know, if you smell that sweet smell through your vents. So there's 4 T15s here that need to be removed, then we can slide out the heater core. There we go, all the screws are removed. That heater core can come out, and it looks pretty rough, honestly. I mean, this looks quite rough. A lot of the fins are damaged. I actually, funny enough, don't see much of a coolant residue on these fins. It doesn't look too bad, but I'm going to be safe and change this because I don't want to do it in the middle of the winter, and we are coming up to winter here in Canada, so I definitely don't want to be stuck with a blown heater core and be stuck on the side of the road during a snowstorm or something. So we're going to do this. So going in, we've got an OE Mala Bear as well, and Mala make the original heater core for Volvo. So this is a very high quality replacement part. It's pretty much the OE, as you see Mala right there, and this is going to be a great replacement. And you can even see here, this one has a plastic, this one has metal over here, so it's just, I guess, a little bit of an upgrade. I guess they updated the part at some point for it to be even more durable. So this is what we're going to put in. We also put one of these in our 1999 Volvo S70 and has had no issues for the last year. So we're going to leave these plugs in for now, and we're just going to go ahead and install this foam stripping. And what this does is it allows to create a seal around the heater core, which focuses air directly on the matrix to increase heating efficiency. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that on there, then I'll be right back. Alright, so foam stripping has been installed all around. This is how you want to do it, all the way to the ends. And you just want to kind of replicate what's on this heater core, as long as it's done well. Of course, if it's not done well, you could base it off of this, and as you can see, follow along this top portion and then down to the other side. So that's pretty much simply it. So let's go ahead and install this. It goes in one way into the box. So let's go ahead and do that with the 4 T15s. Do not tighten these too much. As long as they're snug, you're good to go. Don't forget it screws into plastic. Just for reference is the correct orientation. As you can see, you've got the angled part here, and the outlet and inlet are over here. So gives you a good idea of how it's supposed to be. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and put this back in the car, and we'll meet you there. Oh, this Mala Bear kit is nice enough to include 2 O-rings. So we're going to go ahead and replace them. They're just on those pipes. So just remove these O-rings here. And please always replace these, because it'll really help make sure you did a thorough job on this replacement. So here are the old, and they're almost like squared off O-rings. So they've done their job sealing, and they're a bit harder. They're not super duper pliable like these new ones are. So these are much more pliable, much nicer. You can lubricate these with coolant, but I'm gonna go ahead and use silicone grease, a bit more of a better product to use to lubricate these properly. Just like that, they're lubricated. Let's go ahead and install them over there. Now go ahead and press them all the way down until they bottom out. Make sure they're nice and flat. When we put our heater core back in, it's gonna compress those and finish the job of sealing. So before we go ahead and install the heater core, I'm going to remove my towel, which has done its job, soaping up as much of this coolant as possible. It's actually even a little bit green and heavy. So we're going to put that to the side. Don't leave it in the reach of animals, because that coolant can kill them if they lick it, and it is sweet. So animals think it's a nice treat, but it's really not. So let's go ahead and move all our stuff out of the way, and I'm going to dive in here and actually going to clean up extra messes here. So I've got a little bit on the carpet here too, somehow it got here. So I can go ahead and carpet cleaner some other time and clean that after this is all done. So let's go ahead and clean up our mess. Really try to be as thorough as possible, because you could get a sweet smell in the cabin of coolant, and you also want, for diagnosis purposes, when you do check for leaks on this thing, you want to make sure that there's no coolant everywhere to give you a misdiagnosis. Maybe you'll think it's leaking, but it's just because you didn't do a full job cleaning. But this looks actually pretty okay. There's a little bit more I see here, and this actually looks nice and clean now. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to install our heater core. So just take your time, try to line it all up. that's almost all the way in. Make sure you get those pipes in next. Now, one thing I did do as a rookie mistake, I left these two plugs on the inlet and outlet of the heater core, so I couldn't even get those lines in. But now they're in, so I'm gonna make sure now that next time I do this, I make sure I pull these guys out. Anyways, we all make mistakes, right? The first screws we're gonna put in are the vertical T20s that go up over there, and that's gonna pull the heater core upwards, and it's gonna allow us to make the rest of the installation easier. Make sure those pipes stay lined in where they are. So after installing those two T20s, let's go ahead and put in the two T15s. Installed the two T15s and the two T20 screws, the ones that go upwards are the T20s. The T15s are here on the side. They're installed on both sides and tightened. Now the last thing we gotta do, or one of the last things rather, and I've also put back the evaporator drain into place to make sure that clipped in properly. The last thing we gotta do is here, make sure these pipes are seated as far as possible into the heater core, and then put in the 25mm Torx that will lock that in place. All right, so I've gotten that screw in just by hand, and it's going nice and smooth. Now it's starting to feel a bit tight by hand, so we're gonna go in with our ratchet, finish the job here. Don't forget, this is plastic here, and you don't want to damage anything, so just make sure you take your time, tighten that down snug, and that's all you'll need. The O-rings will do the sealing. So everything is buttoned up on the inside. We've also replaced, like I said, the evaporator drain is back in its spot. And now we're just gonna go ahead and remove these coolant clamps here, the ones that are just clamping these coolant lines. Simply squeeze them and lower down the collar. Then you can take that out. Let's do it on the other one too. This is vital to do before starting up the car. Do not start the car with these in there, then no coolant will flow to the heater core, just create a blockage. Make sure absolutely you remove these. So anyways, now we're gonna leave everything undone. We're gonna go ahead and start the car and check for leaks. Starting it up, and we're gonna make sure that there's no leaks. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on full heat, on full blast. And what that's gonna do is allow the heat to come on, and we're gonna go ahead and start bleeding and checking for leaks. We don't forget that new heater core has zero coolant in it, so we have to let coolant replace the air and properly bleed this out. So I'm gonna go ahead and just keep an eye on things, and you wanna also check on your coolant level, which is going to dip at some point. You're gonna wanna add some coolant. I've already got some G48 blue coolant mixed up for this, and then we're gonna go ahead and check for leaks as this thing warms up. It's very important, as you check for leaks, you wanna make sure you're checking not only when the car is cold, but when it's up to operating temperature. And this is important because sometimes those O-rings, sometimes they leak when they're cold, sometimes they leak when they're hot. So you want to make sure you've done the job right and you put them in properly. Right now, so far, I don't see any leaks. There should be coolant flowing through these lines. I can start to feel it getting warm. So yes, there is coolant going into this heater core. And so far, guys, it is bone dry. So I'm really happy about this. And once we can confirm that everything's bone dry, then we can go ahead and put all these panels back on. Now you can also, like some people say, drive for a week with this undone. I'm personally not going to. As long as I see there's no leaks coming out of it, then we're good to go. I just noticed here there's a little bit of coolant pulling up down there. That's probably from me not cleaning well, so I'm gonna go ahead and wipe that up. And then I'm gonna just keep an eye on this, and I'll update you guys when I'm done with my testing. So I'm just gonna turn off this fresh air vent. I'm starting to feel heat coming in the cabin. I also went ahead and checked the air hoses inside of the engine bay, and those are starting to get warm to the touch. So we know that there's coolant starting to flow into the heater core. Now, of course, this is going to take probably about 5 to 10 minutes of just idling. You could go for a drive. It might speed up the process as you're revving the engine. You could, of course, also just rev the engine to around 2000 RPM and hold it there. And like that, it'll just make the water flow more, and then it'll go ahead and speed up the process of warming up. We're still not there yet. When this car's at operating temperature, we're gonna go ahead and let it idle for another maybe 5 minutes, and then at that point we'll know that this thing has been properly bled and there's no leaks. So far he's starting to come in, but nothing crazy yet, so we're gonna go ahead and wait. You can also try a recirc on too, and heat's starting to come in, so it doesn't really matter whether you have that on or not. I'm gonna let it just idle. I've was revving it a little bit before, but now I'm just gonna let it idle. Temperature's coming up slowly but surely, and I've got some rain to clean off of these door panels, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab a rag and clean this up while this car's warming up. All right, good news, heat is nice and strong. I don't see any sort of leakage so far, but the vents, the heat is nice and it's working very well. And let's go ahead and look underneath here and make sure that everything's nice. So down here, I don't see any leakage whatsoever. This is now hot, and these pipes as well, just watch your hands, but these pipes are hot. Oh yeah, nice and hot. So this is going very well. I see zero leaks, and it's only here you got to really check where those O-rings are sealing, and I really see nothing. So I think we're pretty much good to go to reinstall this. I'm going to check the coolant level, top it up as needed, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I've gone ahead and added a little bit of coolant. As you can see, I'm trying not to add too much, so always add little by little. If you remove this cap while the car's hot, you can, but be very, very careful, because of course hot coolant can explode out of the bottle. So just be very careful. So you remove it very slowly. When you hear the pressure kind of release, then you could remove the cap safely, but just be extremely careful when you do that. As you can see, my coolant level looks pretty good. It's about halfway, so I don't want to add too much. So what I'm going to do is allow this car to continue running. Everything is warm. These heater hoses down here are also warm, so that's looking good. So we're going to keep monitoring this, and I will update you guys slowly but surely. Also, sorry for the loud noise. The blower is right above me, but just be sure to check on the passenger side. It might give you a different perspective. Right now, I'm still seeing zero leakage. The pipes are really hot. So this heater core looks like it's all well sealed. I don't see any leaks, so I feel pretty comfortable putting this all back together now. And last thing before we start putting everything back together, car is at operating temperature. I smell nothing through the vents, no more of that sweet smell. So it looks like our problem was a slightly leaking heater core, which over time would have gotten worse and worse. And like I said, if you don't take care of this problem, in a while it could easily just leak catastrophically, and you could lose all your coolant. So that's something you really don't want to do. You can easily overheat your engine like that, and these cars have blown engines because of people who just don't pay attention to the signs, the symptoms. These heater cores will give you warnings like the sweet smell of the vent, sticky residue on the windshield when you put the defrost on, and a difficulty of actually clearing out condensation in your car. So if you see any of those, then that means heater core replacement's imminent. But as you can see in this tutorial, it's really not that big of a deal to replace. Even if you bring it to a shop, it's not a whole lot of man hours to get this job done. And just to show you guys for 100%, you can see nothing coming out of these, no coolant whatsoever, and this job is pretty much done. And those pipes are nice and hot, so we do know that there's coolant going through here. And I just want to reiterate, take your time, install this properly, and you'll be doing a good job. You'll be very happy to have some nice heat in your cabin without worrying about a potential horrible failure that's going to make you lose a lot of coolant. Alright, so our first piece we're going to reinstall on the passenger side is this kick panel here. Let's go ahead and install this. Grab your 13mm with extension, and the torque spec is even written here, 20 Newton meters or 15 foot-pounds. So start by just setting these by hand with your extension. So that panel is in. The next thing we're going to do is install the kick panel, the rest of the glove box screws, and the panel that goes over here. Then we'll be able to fold our carpet back in. I'm just going to peel back this carpet a bit more. And this panel is very easy to install. You just get into place. And then over here, where you see that hole, it slides into a black clip right here. Just like that. And that panel's installed as is. Make sure this one here goes behind the dash here. So that's all. It's not really meant to be in there tight. Just like that is okay, and it just blocks that section from the cabin. The glove box, which is up here, so that's the correct orientation. Let's go ahead and reinstall this. There's also a centering pin here that kind of acts also with the latch. Let's go ahead and install this in there. And after all that, don't forget to just go ahead and put your door lights back on. And with that, guys, with the magic of editing, everything is done. Everything's back in its place, all nip and tidy and looking good. Now what you want to do too is go ahead and go on a road test. Make sure your heat still works really nice. Check your coolant level as well. And you can see here everything looks good too. I even put in a torque screw just for now. It's an OEM Volvo screw. I just put that in for now until I figure out how to do it this, maybe a new kick panel. And I managed to even find the little T25 that goes in there. It was actually on the car. For some reason it just wasn't on. So yeah, that whole job is done, guys. There's no coolant leaks whatsoever. So you could drive for confidently for years with this new heater core, and especially if you go ahead and put in a high quality replacement like a Mala Bear one or an OEM Volvo replacement. Make sure you don't buy any of those cheap ones. Sometimes they even come with these really bad O-rings that don't seal well, and you'll have a leak right away. So make sure you could either spend the highest dollar and get yourself an OEM Volvo one, or you can go ahead and get the OE, Mala Bear, or Nissan's. Any good reputable brand is going to make a good heater core for these cars. As you can see here, our coolant level is looking good. I might need to add a little bit more, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just drive the car around for a bit and check the level. I don't want to overfill this either, but already it's looking like I might need to add a little bit more, and everything here is looking nip and tidy. Anyways guys, I hope this video was helpful to you guys, and if you guys did like it, please leave a like and a subscribe, and thank you so much for watching, and take care. Goodbye.